eternally so. That which you give to another, you give to yourself. And you can give it in one form, and it will come back in another. But it cannot fail to come back to you because there's only one of us in the room. And his life changed out of his new awareness of what abundance truly is. So the first thing I want to share with you about abundance is get clear what abundance is. And if and when you decide to give abundantly of the grandest part of who you are, with everyone whose life you touch, if you decide to do that, your life will change in 90 days. Maybe 90 minutes, be careful. Because people will suddenly get who you are. See, let me explain to you the difference. Here are two lawyers, and they both have an office on the same block in the same city. They both graduated from the same college, and they both graduated at the top of their class. So they have equal skill levels. It's not about location, because they're both on the same block in the same city. See? Yet one lawyer, lawyer A, is doing fabulously well, and lawyer B, just a few feet down the block, is not doing so well. What's that about? What's happening there? What causes one person to be the thing we call successful and another person not, given everything else being equal? What's happening there? Lawyer A is very clear. Plumber A is very clear. Doctor A is very clear. It's not about what he's doing. See, it has nothing to do with what he's doing. So be careful that you don't get caught up in a thought that your abundance, or what you might want to call your success in life, will come to you out of what you're doing. It will not. And if you haven't learned that, life will teach you that, because you'll do all this stuff. So you'll be doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that, and just wind up with a great big pile of doo-doo. And you'll wonder, how did I create this pile of doo-doo here? I did all the right things. And then it will dawn on you, oh, I get it. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing. That isn't the connection. That isn't how all this good stuff that I think is going to flow to me is going to flow to me. And then we see another person down the street who appears to be doing nothing. And abundance is just flowing down upon him. You can't push it away fast enough. Say, that's not fair. How does he get to have all that? He's not doing anything, which is, of course, precisely the secret. He's not doing a damn thing. I mean to say, and I chose my words very carefully there, he's not doing a damned thing. And we've been spending our lives running around doing all these damned things. So the important thing for us to remember when we're searching for right livelihood is to stop looking for something to do and start looking for something to be. And to get in touch with that part that resides deep inside of you, that knows who you really are, and see what it would take to call that forth in a beingness way. So look inside. What is it that I'm being when I feel totally fulfilled and totally self-expressed? What am I being when that happens? Maybe I'm being a healer. Maybe I'm being sensual. Maybe I'm being creative. Or there's some level or state of beingness that would describe to you in a word or two the essence of what's showing up for you, what part of you that's really showing up big. But before I get into it, as I said a minute ago, before I get into a detailed explanation of that, I want to go to some other thoughts, first of all, that I have noticed block people from experiencing abundance, and that blocked me from experiencing abundance. And now I am going to talk about abundance in terms of dollars and cents. Many people hold the thought that money, per se, is bad. I don't know whether you hold that, and some people hold that thought almost unconsciously. That is to say, if you ask them directly, do you experience that money is bad? Is it your thought that money is bad? They would say, no, it's not. Money is good. Many people would say that, but they act as if it's bad. Do you ever have anybody do you a favor, and when you want to offer them a few pennies just to kind of compensate for some of the hard costs that you know they've put into it, they won't take the money? What do you suppose that's about? They don't want to take your thanks? No, they're happy to take your thanks. They don't want to take your money? No, they don't want to take your money for it, because somehow the exchange of money for the good thing they did for you at some level besmirches the exchange. You see, it drops it to a level that starts to feel icky. You see, there's a guy I once knew named Reverend Ike who used to say, I love money and money loves me. That's a great message. I love money and money loves me. And I don't declare that in my universe God is everything except money. But rather I declare God is everything including money. See? That money is just another form of the energy of life that we call God. So we need to get off of our idea that somehow money is bad. You know, we talk about filthy lucre, you know, and we talk about being filthy rich. And we use those phrases that give away what our inner thought is, or at least the inner thought of society at large is, about this. And I can tell you that society still holds this thought very deeply, because one of the questions I am most frequently asked, how does it feel for you to be going around the country talking about spirituality and making so much money at it? As if somehow I'm doing something wrong, you see? As if somehow that should be a warning to the public. See? Big warning. See, look at how much money he's making off of this. And every so often I get a letter from someone who says, if you're really so spiritual, why don't you give away all of your royalties to the poor? See? Why don't you, for that matter, just put the book on the internet and let people have access to it for free? See? And the reason that we don't do that is that if we did that, the publishers would go out of business and the book could never be produced to begin with. See, somebody has to do the first thing called publish the book in some form. Even putting something up on the internet costs money. So because that's true, what we notice is that money is just the lubrication that makes the machinery of life work at this present time on our planet as society is currently constructed. And that's all right. Create everything. Money doesn't come to you because of what you do. If you think that money comes to you because of what you do, then of course you'll have all of those doingness alibis. I didn't get my college education, or I was disadvantaged to begin with, or I haven't had the opportunities you've had, because you're going to imagine that money flows to you because of something you're doing rather than something you're being. Beingness is something that everyone has, regardless of their education, their station in life, their ethnic or cultural background, their social status. See, everyone can be loving, everyone can be extraordinary, everyone can be generous and giving and compassionate and friendly. Everyone can be all the things that we pay people big money to be, regardless of what they're doing. See, it doesn't really matter. The lawyers that make the most money, the doctors that make the most money, the ministers that make the most money, the paper boys that make the most money, are the paper boys that show up with an enormous smile on their face, a huge open heart to everyone whose life they touch. They're the ones who go around and get huge tips from the people that they're delivering papers to, and all the other paper boys are wondering, how do you do that? Oh, see, you've got a better bike, or you have a better family background, or you have a better neighborhood, you got a better route. See? No one in life has a better route. All we have to do is share with each other a level of beingness that others recognize as something they want to be touched by all the time. And if we're willing to do that, it doesn't matter what our doingness in life is. We can be plumbers, paper boys, street cleaners, or corporate presidents. But all the good that comes from life will come to us in life when we are willing to open our heart and share from a deep level of beingness with others of the treasure that resides within us, which is called love. But what it comes down to ultimately is a willingness to just show up in this space as the wonderful you that you are, regardless of your story. You do that, and you'll be happy in life. By the way, you'll be happy in life whether or not you have a lot of money. Now, the secret, once you know this, is to not resist it, because what you resist persists. And what you look at disappears. What you hold and embrace, you make your own. What you make your own no longer resists you. That's why masters never resist the opposite of who they are, but rather see it as the grandest blessing. Bring on the opposite. Bring on that which I am not. For I will not only welcome that which I am not, I will merge and become so much a part of it that it will bless that which I am and cause it to have grand expression. The first principle is that we are all one. Do you imagine what the invocation of a principle such as that, we are all one, would do to us economically on this planet, and politically and spiritually? It would produce such upheaval and such shifting and such change that we almost can't describe it. And it would be all change for the good, for the better, of course. Wars would end tomorrow. Disagreements would be virtually impossible. Certainly disagreements that lead to violence would be very difficult to sustain, given the thought that we are all one. We will construct an economic reality around that basic spiritual truth. There's only one of us, and it is possible to do that. And that economic reality would eliminate all thoughts of ownership, for instance. We wouldn't own anything anymore. And when we get to that place, we'll stop despoiling the land, destroying the environment, and doing the kinds of things that we're doing to Gaia, to this planet, because we think we have a right to, because after all, it's ours. This property is mine. I get to do with it what I want. By what manner or means, by what level of reasoning can a society of evolved beings allow themselves to justify 1/10 of the people holding 9/10 of the resources and refusing to share them equitably by saying, you don't understand, it's mine, I bought it, I worked for it, and you can't have it? How much is enough? That's the question that is placed before the 1/10 of the world's people who are holding 9/10 of the resources. How much is enough? And how much do other people have to suffer in order for you to feel that you've got enough? And that, by the way, is not an economic question. It's a spiritual one. The problem we have in life is that most often people think one thing, say a second thing, and do a third. That is to say, they do not, as the kids would put it, have it all together. So they think one thing and they do another. Or they say one thing and they think another. Or they don't say what they're thinking, or they don't do what they're saying. Yeah. Now, I know that none of you in this room have ever had that happen to you in your life, but in my experience, there have been times when I have encountered that conflict between the three centers of my creation. So I often do not want to tell people what I'm actually thinking, because I'm not real proud of what I'm thinking. Then why are you thinking it? God only knows. Fastest ways to create something in your physical reality is to reverse the normal process by which we create things. Usually we create things first by thinking about it. I think I'll go to that party. And then we say something about it, as in, Matilda, I'm coming to your party tonight. And then we do something about it, as in showing up at the party. Here I am, just as I said I would be, because I thunk the thought this morning. Okay? That's generally how we produce things in our reality. In fact, everything in this room was once a thought in someone's mind. There is nothing that was not once a thought in someone's mind somewhere. But if you want to really play tricks with the universe and create magic with the stuff of life itself, reverse the thought, word, deed paradigm. Turn it upside down and start with the deed. That is to say, act as if. If you want to experience abundance, be abundant and do as abundance does. Therefore, if you have only $5 left to your name, go to a store and get them transferred, made into singles, and take 5 singles and walk down the street and give a single to each of 5 people who have even less than you do. And by the way, you will find those people very easily. I'm reminded of the story of a guy named Joe who actually lived in San Francisco on the streets. And as little as he had, he made it his job every day to find someone who had less than he had. If he managed to panhandle a couple of bucks on the street, he'd give two and a half times that to someone who had even less. And he was a very abundant guy. He was known as the king of the streets, in fact, because he was the source of abundance for everyone else on the street. People on the streets can begin to experience abundance if they are willing to allow someone else whose life they are touching experience abundance in that instant moment. That might seem easier said than done. I mean, I'm sitting here in the lap of luxury making that statement. And I don't want to sound shallow. And I don't want to sound gratuitous. But I lived on the street. I lived on the street for over a year of my life. And I remember what pulled me out of it. For the first 3 months, I felt desperately sorry for myself. How has it come to this? With all my talent, with all my ability, with all that I had, how has it come to this? I'm on the street, for God's sake. In that moment, I decided to live. And I decided to live my life. And that was the greatest decision I ever made. And that's what I would say to anyone who feels trapped, whether in a corporate job or in any place in life. How much of your life are you willing to give away? And how much of your life are you willing to reclaim? And once you reclaim your life, how much more do you think you'll have to give to others? Not just of material things, but of the joy and happiness which now resides in your soul. You will always find in your experience someone who has less than you, no matter how little you think you have. Not because the world is such a terrible place, but because you will create it in your reality in order to give yourself the experience I'm talking about. So you'll walk down the street and you'll see this. Now, by the way, when you see this person who has less, don't feel sorry for them. Get that you put them there. See? Otherwise, you'll see that little soul and you'll start to have pity on that soul. Do not come from pity with anyone. Come from caring. Come from love. But get clear that love is not pity. As a matter of fact, pity is about as far from love as you can get. So do not come from pity, but come from compassion. Compassion says in your mind, oh, there's a person who thinks they don't have what they could have in life. There's a person who still is caught in a belief system that creates a construction around their reality that's other than my own and other than the ultimate truth. And have that compassion, but never have pity. And so you walk down the street and you give the last of your $5 away. Now what happens there? What's going on? You've reversed the thought, word, deed paradigm. You're now doing what the person who comes from abundance would do. And you begin giving away what an hour before you made that decision you couldn't imagine giving away because you thought you didn't have enough. But now you're clear that you have more than enough. So much more that you choose to give it to others. Now, as you're giving this away, you're creating in your body, which is a very gross level of energy, an experience. The body is noticing cellularly, oh my gosh, I'm giving this money away. Look at this, I'm even letting it go. kind of like in church on Sunday morning. See, you know what your thought about your money is when the basket comes around in church on Sunday morning and you start pulling out those dollar bills. I'm giving a whole $1. Did you see this, Mildred? Put it in the basket there. Wow, great sermon this morning. I'll make it 5. Wow, big sermon, you know. See, pull out a 20. Get your checkbook out and write 100. Let your church know how important it is to you. If you go to church or go to synagogue or go to a place of worship and it serves you, pull out your checkbook and write a check for $150. Do it just once. Let your church, your synagogue, your place of worship know this is how important this place is to me. I spend this kind of money on all kinds of nonsense, much less sense. I spend this money on nonsense. And do that wherever you see something that makes sense to you. Give of whatever you have to that which makes sense to you. And you will discover that it makes sense for you. Dollars and cents. And money loses its value the moment you try to hang on to it. Money only has value when you're willing to let it go. Get that for those of you who are saving your money. You're not saving anything. You're losing. Do you know that it's true even in the world economy, the longer you save money, the less it's worth. You know that? To make up for it, we have to have some artificial construction called interest rates in order to convince you that holding on to money allows you to increase its value. You're lucky the longer you hold on to money, you're lucky if you manage to maintain its value. No. Money has its greatest value when it leaves your hand because it empowers you to be, do, and have something that you choose to be, do, and have. Money's only value is when it leaves your hand. But we will create these artificial, as I said, these artificial economic constructions called interest rates and so forth to convince you to hoard your money. So save a little if you want to, it's all right. I don't save very much myself. I just kind of like keep it moving, you know? Just keep it going out there. How to make friends with money? Imagine that money was a gift to you from the universe with which to do every good thing for yourself and for others that you ever wanted to do. Now we have yet another hurdle to get across. Oh my, if I have a lot of money, I can actually do good things for myself. I can actually go out and buy a very expensive Italian suit or $550 Italian shoes. Do I dare even say that I'm wearing $550 Italian shoes? Actually, I am. Do you know how long it took me to be okay with a pair of $550 Italian shoes? I mean, it's not about the shoe. It's about what this represents in my life. And it doesn't represent that I have the money to afford it. It represents that I have the mindset to make it okay for me to have this. There is no part of life whatsoever that is not a part of God. There's no aspect of the life energy whatsoever that is not holy and sacred. Nothing is evil, lest thinking make it so. Let us stop making money evil. Let's stop making sex evil, and most of all, let's stop making each other evil. What are we doing here? And why are we doing it? Why do we insist on seeing evil and negativity in every corner of our lives? What is that about? If we see life as essentially good, we'll solve our problems with money, and we'll make money our friend. And then we'll do good things with that money, good things for ourselves because we deserve it. I deserve these shoes, and so do you. And then we'll do good things for others. We'll share of the abundance which is ours and the abundance which is given to us by God with all those whose lives we touch. And no one will be without anything. There's enough for all of us. And when we choose that, we'll be friends with money, with ourselves, with everyone else, and with God. When you change the be-do-have paradigm, you start acting as if, and your body begins to understand at a cellular level who you think you really are. See, when I was a kid, my father used to say, "Who the hell do you think you are anyway?" Spent the rest of my life trying to answer that question. So, and my body is trying to understand what I think about that. So as my body starts moving through the field of gross energy, it starts moving things around, begins to give things away, for instance, and your body starts getting the message, I have that which I would choose to receive. I already have it. Now, once you cross that huge barrier, you think you don't have it, and you're trying to get that which you do not have, namely more money. But once you get that you have it, then it just becomes a question of how many zeros are after the first number. You understand? And so you'll discover that what goes around indeed does come around. Not because you performed some real, true magic trick in the universe, but because you finally got the truth of who you are at some universal cosmic level. And the universe never says no to your thought about yourself. It only grows it. Did you hear what I just said? I said the universe never says no to your thought about yourself. It only grows it. I mean, the universe is really wonderful. You'll love God because God grows on you. See, God is like the manure of the universe. I thought I would say something absolutely outrageous. Just completely outrageous. Total juxtaposition to see whether your minds can hold, the most outrageous thought. Because, and I meant that in the kindest way, because God is that which makes things grow. Makes things grow. And it will make you grow. Whatever it is you think you would like to be, do, or have, cause another to be, do, or have that. See yourself as the source rather than the recipient of what it is you would choose to experience in life. For you are not, in fact, the recipient, but you have been and always will be the source. When you imagine yourself to be the source of that which you wish you could receive, you become very resourceful. And then you do become a magician.
I wondered if you could address the issue that there is resistance within oneself that one encounters in doing that, because there's still the belief, the fear that, well, if I give it away, then I won't have it. So it's the resistance that is the rub, so to speak, and I'm curious to know how you deal with that and et cetera. The resistance within.
I just feel the resistance and ignore it. See, because now I know better. So because what I know is that what you resist persists, and what you look at disappears. So whenever I feel resistance to anything, I know that that is where truth lies, just beyond that resistance. Whenever resistance appears anywhere in my reality, I know that just beyond that is where the grandest truth resides. And because I know that, I welcome that feeling. That feeling of discomfort. See, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So in the moment that I start feeling uncomfortable, I go, oh, there's that feeling of discomfort again. Yes, yes, bring it on. I'm actually comfortable with my discomfort, if that can make any sense. Do you understand the divine dichotomy? I find comfort in my discomfort. That, I'm not really sure, means I'm absolutely sure. It means that the highest part of myself is speaking to me in a way that vibrates throughout every cell of my body, that I used to call discomfort and that I now call a signal from the divine. Move into that, not away from it. Every time I have denied myself the experience of my own greatness, it's because I've moved away from rather than into my discomfort and locked myself out from my place of joy. Not once in a while. Not now and then. Every single time. Me uncomfortable, and I move into that because it is what's making me uncomfortable that will ultimately make me larger and cause me to grow and become a bigger version of myself, a bigger version of who I am. Therefore, in my life, anything that makes me uncomfortable, I take a closer look at. The point I'm trying to make is that in my life, I've learned to look at whatever makes me uncomfortable and then to move into more of the experience of that, because there's probably something there that I want to heal, or at the very least take a close exploration of, to see whether it's, here I go again, serving me to be discomforted by that. So when I say that life begins at the end of your comfort zone, I really mean that. On this side of our comfort zone is not real life, but kind of a slow death. I think people should be uncomfortable at least 6 times a day. And if you're not, do something that makes yourself uncomfortable. Give a speech, sing a song. And by the way, all true leaders, all true change agents, all true masters are people who have become comfortable with their discomfort. Now there are those among you who might say, but what of caution? To which I say, throw caution to the wind. What can you lose but everything? And until you're willing to lose it all, you cannot have it all. Because you think it's about holding on to what it is you now have got. And that which you hold on to will slip through your fingers. Yet that which you let go will come back to you sevenfold. Because you're holding on to something dearly, for dear life, is the grandest announcement that you think that you are separate from everyone else. See, I'm over here, and you're over there, and I've got this stuff, and I've got to hold on to it. But your letting go is the grandest announcement that you're clear, that there's no place where you end and where I begin. Therefore, in a very real sense, when I let go of it to you, I give it back to myself. Therefore, these 3 words to always remember. Have these words tattooed on your left wrist. Be the source. Be the source of that which you would choose for another. Come from that place of, I am the source. If you want more magic in your life, bring more magic into the room with you. If you want more love in your life, bring more love into the room with you. Be the source in the lives of another of that which you would have in your own life. If you want more money in your life, bring more money into the life of another. Whatever it is you want more of. If you want more compassion in your life, if you want more wisdom in your life, be the source of wisdom in the life of another. And through this process and the process of beingness, the process of being who you really are, you will bring yourself the experience of right livelihood virtually overnight. And the world will shower upon you all the rewards for which you reached in vain for so many years. So allow your doingness to spring from your place of beingness. Be happy, be abundant, be wise, be creative, be understanding, be a leader. Be who you really are in every moment of your life. Come from that place and let your doingness spring from that place. And you'll not only find right livelihood, you will have created for yourself a life rather than a living. Thank you.
If you are willing, and apparently you must be willing because you are here and I'm here, to take this long, complex journey. Because life is very complex. And we like to look at complexity and get more and more complex. But we never look at anything simply. With our brains, with our heart, with our whole being. So, Christians have killed more than anybody else on earth. So, we are observing, not taking sides. These are facts, actualities. And there are these religions. Christianity, Islamic world, the fundamentalists, and the Hinduism and Buddhism, and the various sects within the organized Christianity, and also in India and Asia, they believe in the Buddha. In Buddhism there is no God. In Hinduism, somebody calculated there are about 300,000 gods. That's rather fun. You can choose whichever god you like. And in Christianity and Islam, there is only one God, based on two books, the Bible and the Quran. So religions have divided man as nationalism, which is a form of glorified tribalism, have divided man. Nationalism, patriotism, religious order, the fundamentalists in all both in India, here and Europe, going back, reviving the religion. I wonder if you have ever looked at the word reviving. You can only revive something that's dead or died. Nothing living. You can't revive a living thing. And in this country, they are reviving religion. This question of problem. When you are a child, you're sent to school. There, you have a problem of writing, problem of mathematics, problem of history, science, chemistry, and all the rest of it. So from childhood, we are trained to have problems. Please have patience. Look at it carefully. So our brain is conditioned, trained, educated to have problems. Observe for yourself. Don't please merely listen to the speaker. We are together investigating, looking into the problems that you have. So from childhood, we are trained, educated, conditioned to have problems. And when new problems arise, which they inevitably do, our brain, being full of problems, tries to solve another problem and thereby increase more problems, which is what's happening in the world. The politicians all over the world are increasing a problem after problem, and they have found no answer. So is it possible? Please listen if you will. Is it possible to have a brain that is free from problems so that it can solve problems? Into the question itself, is the answer separate from the question? Or does the answer lie in the question itself? The perfume of a flower is in the flower. The very flower is the essence of that perfume. But we depend on others so much to be helped, to be encouraged, to solve our problems. Therefore, out of our confusion, we create authority, the gurus, the priests. So please, it's good to ask questions. I don't know if you've gone into this. What is fear? Again, humanity has put up with fear. Has never been able to solve fear. Never. There are various forms of fears. You may have your own particular form of fear. Fear of death, fear of God, fear of your wife, fear of your husband, fear of the politicians, and God knows how many fears humanity has. The devil, and so on. What is fear? Not the mere experience of fear in its multiple forms, but actually the reality, the actuality of fear. How is it brought about? Why has man, woman, why has humanity and each one have accepted fear as the way of life, as you accept violence as the way of fear, as the way of life? Violence in the television, violence of war, violence of your daily life. Why do we accept violence? The ultimate violence is to go into organized killing, which is called war. Is not fear related to violence? So in inquiring into fear, the actual truth of fear, not the idea of fear. You understand the difference? The idea of fear is different from the actuality of fear. Right? So what is fear? How has it come about? What's the relationship of fear to time, to thought? Fear, one may be frightened of tomorrow. or many tomorrows. Fear of death, the ultimate fear. Fear of what has happened before in the past. Fear of what is actually going on now. So we must inquire together. Please, the speaker keeps on repeating together. Otherwise it's no fun talking to myself. Is fear brought about by time? Someone has done something in the past, hurt you, and the past is time. The future is time. The present is the time, is time. So we are asking, is time a central factor of fear? Fear has many, many branches, many leaves. But it's no good trimming the branches. We're asking, what's the root of fear? Not the multiple forms of fear, because fear is fear. Out of fear you invented gods, saviors. If you have absolutely no fear psychologically, then there is tremendous relief, great sense of freedom. You have dropped all the burdens of life. So we must inquire very seriously, closely, hesitantly into this question. Is time a factor? Obviously. I have a good job now, I may lose it tomorrow. I'm frightened. And I may be married, I'm frightened. When there is fear, there is jealousy, anxiety, hatred, violence. So, time is a factor of fear. Please listen to the end of it. Don't say, how am I to stop time? That's not the problem. That's a rather absurd question to ask. Time is a factor, and thought is a factor. Thinking about what has happened, what might happen. Thinking. Is thinking a factor in fear? Is thinking brought about fear? As one sees, time has brought fear. Right? Time. Not only time by the clock, but psychological time. The inward time. I am going to be. I am not good, but I will be. I will get rid of my violence, which is again the future. Or I have been violent, but I won't be. All that implies time. We ought to inquire, what is time? Are you prepared for all this? Do you want to go into all this? Really? I'm rather surprised.
When I had been in my darkest moment, I happened to read The Power of Now. What Eckhart Tolle had to say about happiness had been the impetus to go on this journey. I was in Vancouver to meet him. You were there on a park bench for 2 years. Yes. And you slept on the park bench?
Rarely, but I did spend most of the days on park benches in parks, different parks in London.
Did you eat 3 meals a day?
No. 1 meal a day if I was lucky.
Oh.
As you sit here, is it possible for you to simply watch what's happening around you without adding any interpretation to it? To just be present with what is. And you get a taste of what it's like to be on a park bench with nothing further needing to be added to this moment. The sounds, sights, people, the sound of the water, the light. Just allow it to be as it is. With that comes peace. You don't get continuously drawn into events and thoughts and emotions and reactions. You're the wider space in which all these things happen. You're the awareness behind it, without which none of this would be here. It would just be atoms and molecules in space. You are the awareness that enables this entire world to be. Because the real comes not from the accumulated stuff in your mind, that's all the roles that you play, not just you, everybody. Everybody plays their roles. They've been conditioned to play certain roles. You have an image of who you are. When you meet a beautiful woman, you play a certain role. You want to have the best possible image. You present the best possible image, and she does the same. You can observe it when two young people are attracted to each other. They meet the first few days and weeks. They look different from the way they usually look because they present an image that wants to attract the other, and it's unconscious. It's a role that they play. It's only after the honeymoon, when everyday life begins, that gradually the image, and you believe that image that you see in her is who she is, and she believes that you don't know that you're both playing roles, but you cannot keep up the roles indefinitely. So after the honeymoon, gradually they wear down the roles, and then there becomes some discontent arises, and suddenly the mask slips. The role is, you can't play a role continuously. The role of me, the attractive one. So that's to get out of the role playing that otherwise you're stuck with for the rest of your life. You have a certain role for your partner for a while. You have another role for your work situation. You have another role for wherever you go. You slip into subtle differences in the way in which you behave. When you talk to the chairman of the board or the Dalai Lama, you will behave in a certain way, and then you might notice when you talk to the plumber, there will be subtle differences in the way in which you talk. You play a different role. You think, oh, this is not appropriate here.
Right.
It's only when you stop playing roles, when you observe the Dalai Lama, how he behaves. Now, you might have thought, well, the Dalai Lama probably plays the role of the Dalai Lama, but he doesn't. There's such simplicity, openness, and genuineness in him. He talks the same way to everybody. Whether he meets the plumber or the Pope makes no difference, because he doesn't play conditioned roles anymore. And that is only possible when you access a dimension within yourself that is deeper than the mind. And we just did it, or we are still. Whoever you are talking to, or even when you're alone, go within sometimes and feel that the body is alive. There's life in my hands. You're not imagining anything, you actually feel that there is an aliveness here. And then once you can feel the hands, you can feel the arms, the feet, the legs. You are inhabiting the body. And the body loves that. It loves your attention. Most people don't give their body attention. Even if they look after the body extremely, like you go to a gym every day, or you use all kinds of stuff to put on your body, you might think that these people are looking after their body, but all they're looking after is the external of the body. They are not necessarily present within. They cannot feel the aliveness. Some maybe they can, but most not. They're only concerned with the external body. Here we are concerned with the inner. And it doesn't matter. The inner body has nothing to do with what the external body looks like. Whether you're 80 years old or 20 years old, whether you have a young body or an old body, the sensation of the inner body is always the same. It's alive. And the body loves your attention. It's a bit like when you don't give enough attention to a child, after a while the child cries because it wants to attract your attention. The baby does it, and then you give, because attention is energy, it's enormous energy. Now most attention is consciousness. Most attention for most people is continuously absorbed by thinking. You can see it when you talk to them. They're not there, really. They're thinking. They're looking at you, but they're thinking about the next thought they're going to ask. As you sit there, maybe you're thinking about, okay, what's my next question? And that's not.
So can the now make me rich, powerful, free, happy, smarter, more loving, more loved?
Yes, all of those things.
Rich?
Yes. Let's start with rich, and then we'll look at the next one. Can the now make me rich? Yes. Now what does it mean to be rich? Rich means it's not what people think it is. It's not to have lots of possessions. That may be one aspect of being rich. But rich means to be in touch with the fullness of life. And the only place where you can find the fullness of life, the intense aliveness that you sense when you are present to now, is here. When you are open to the present moment, what comes in is a gratitude for what is, no matter what it's, the little plant, the air you're breathing, the light that's coming through the window, the sound of a bird, whatever is, there is a goodness to it. And even if it looks bad, even if it's a dead animal or a dead human, when you are totally aligned with the present moment, there's a peace that comes into your perceptions. And with that peace comes a gratitude that is very deep. And so you're experiencing really life for the first time when you become present. And so to be in a state of gratitude for what is really what being wealthy means. The present moment is always enough. And so the definition of wealthy really is to have enough, to feel already the fullness of life, an expression that Jesus used. He said, I want you to have the fullness of life. And people didn't quite understand what he meant. Was Jesus talking about shopping malls? That you have 500 shops in one huge shopping mall and you have thousands of things to choose from? Was he predicting the arrival of shopping malls? Is that the fullness of life? You can walk around and buy, and you have lots of money and credit cards, and you can buy anything you like. Now, there are people who can do that. They are not happy. So then he's not talking about the many, many things when he talks about the fullness of life. He's talking about the one thing. It's to feel the intensity of being alive. And you can only feel that intensity of aliveness when you're in the present moment with your attention. One way of being in the present moment, as you know, is to feel the inner aliveness of the body, to feel the aliveness that is in every cell of the body. Ah, it's alive. And the more you go there, the stronger that feeling becomes. And once you are connected with that, you feel that the world around you is intensely alive too. It was alive before, but you didn't see it because there was too much thought stuff going through your mind continuously. The world became dead because everything was immediately labeled mentally. That's a tree, that's a dog. The moment you label it and you don't look anymore, it's not alive anymore. Everything gets deadened through mental abstraction when you go around. The voice in your head immediately calling things names, giving things names. So when you become more present, there's this alert attention with which you meet your surroundings. This way, eventually, that fullness that in essence is an inner realization rather than outer, that's the foundation for wealth, is to feel the fullness of life within. And then if you live in that way, in connectedness with that, eventually the fullness of life will also manifest for you externally in various ways. Meaningful activity is a form of wealth. To know that what you're doing is helping other human beings brings an external fullness also into your life, which is a form of wealth. And wealth may also come in the form of things coming to you, more conventional things, home or car or whatever it may be. Those things also come much more easily when basically you already feel the fullness even long before it comes externally. So basically you feel already wealthy when you live fully in the present moment. You never feel really poor. I perhaps spent 10 years of my life at least living what people would say below the poverty line. And I never felt poor. I always felt rich, although for a long time I had nothing, no external possessions. But life was so fulfilling to live every moment, fully present to the moment, that I felt wealthy, abundant. And much, much later did actually external abundance come into my life to some extent. And that didn't make me feel better. I feel just when now I have a car. During those years I used a bicycle mostly, or the bus. And I don't feel better now because I have a nice car. I feel exactly the same, but just it's nice to have a nice, comfortable car with air conditioning in the summer, and so. But it makes the fullness hasn't changed. It hasn't done anything to change that. So, the foundation is to be fully alive in the present moment. And then it is much more likely that external wealth will also come to you as an outer manifestation of an inner reality. If you feel wealthy already, but if you feel poor and feel that you need to make money now, even if you achieve it, you'll be unhappy with your wealth because it comes out of the unhappiness. So there are many people who are creating wealth these days. They build up a big business on enterprise, but it comes out of a deep dissatisfaction with what is. It comes out of an enormous neediness to show to the world that you are somebody, or to prove to yourself or the world how good you are. And that is not conducive to true happiness. There are many wealthy people who are unhappy in their wealth. And they're not really wealthy. And they are basically still deprived. They are deprived of the fullness of life. and they have perhaps 5 or 10 houses in different places, cars, yacht, and yet they're deprived of the fullness. And so they need more and more. And it doesn't help. So here we have living in the present moment brings you into the fullness of life now, and then eventually it will also manifest in different ways externally for you. Power was the other. So living in the now brings power into your life, true power, not the pseudo power of the ego. And then whatever comes out of it, out of that action, will be good in one way or another. It will not be, one could say, I could call it, it's not karmic action, which means karmic action, it's an Eastern term, karma. Karmic action creates more unhappiness. It comes out of unhappiness and creates more unhappiness for yourself and others. But out of presence, alignment with now, comes non-karmic action. It does not create more suffering on the planet. Because so many people are very, very active, but a lot of that activity ultimately creates more suffering on the planet. So that's the power. What's the next thing that the now will bring you? What was the question?
I really want to know about guilt. I feel guilty all the time for little things I'm doing or that I'm not doing. And there are things that I know I did that were mistakes to other people. So I know that you're supposed to be free and liberated in the now, but shouldn't I feel bad about this stuff? I mean, and what's going to keep me, if I'm free and liberated in the now, from doing bad things to people? Because that's a fear, I think.
The only place where you can be free of the conditioning of your mind, because freedom is not an external thing, it's an internal thing. You can be in prison and you can be free. People have written to me from prison and they've read The Power of Now, and they said they now feel free. What does that mean? True freedom is freedom from your mind, from all the conditioned thoughts and emotions that otherwise control you. Freedom is the freedom to step back from the conditioning into the deeper I, the awareness that you are. It's freedom from thought, ultimately. So that not every thought controls you. So it's the freedom from conditioning, and basically it's the freedom from the past. So you're no longer determined, your behavior and your thinking is no longer determined by your past. It's also freedom from future, because most people have a desperate need for the next moment. I call it psychological future. They need the fulfillment that they think the future will bring them. It won't. So this is something for you to be aware of, because I know that pattern also still operates in you, believing that something in the future will bring you greater fulfillment than you have now. But it won't. If you don't have it now, you won't have it then. You have to access the power of now regardless of your external circumstances. You can have that now. You can't wait for the future, because once you're in the waiting mode, you'll always be waiting for the next moment. Even when you become a famous actor, it won't feel quite right. Maybe you're already famous, I don't know. But it won't feel quite right, and there will be many things when you're very famous. I've met 1 or 2 famous actors, and they come to this teaching. Why do they come? Don't they have everything? No, they've realized they don't have what really matters, and suddenly they discover the spiritual dimension because they've achieved everything else on the worldly dimension. So go deeply into the present moment, become deeply aligned and at one with the only thing there ever is in your life, the present moment. And that is where true power resides, and that is the only place where you can be truly free. happiness. Can happiness come in the future? When I achieve this or that, then I'll be happy when I make it. But every situation that you go into will have a downside. There is not, if you're expecting circumstances to make you happy, they can do that for a while, and then you find, oh, it's not quite what I expected, and there's always another side to it. And very often the very thing that makes you happy, if you have an external thing that makes you happy, that very thing will also make you unhappy. An example, a woman comes into your life who makes you happy. 1, 2, 3 years later, the same woman makes you unhappy. It's the same thing. Or a great job is offered to you, and it creates so much stress that you make yourself ill. It makes you happy first, then it makes you unhappy. You become famous, and then you see the downside of fame. You can't go out in the street alone anymore. There's a riot the moment people see you. You're a prisoner of your house. You can't go out without 2 or 3 bodyguards. Is that freedom? And you thought you would be free when you become famous. I've met 1 or 2 famous people who they can't go out alone. It's too dangerous. And people stop them all the time, and they gather around them. They have to stay inside. Everything has to be organized. They have to jump in the car with tinted windows and bodyguards. Is that freedom? Are they happy because of their fame? No, they have experienced the downside of fame. It doesn't mean that you should not pursue goals. There's nothing wrong with being famous. But don't expect it to make you happy. The true happiness has to be found. It comes from being aligned with life internally. And where's that? Now, here. A complete openness and yes to the present moment that takes you deep into the present moment. That is, true happiness comes out of that. And then you can go on and do things and see if you can become famous. Why not? Experience that. Experience as much as you can without hoping that some experience, or when you've accumulated enough experiences, you'll finally feel fulfilled and fully yourself. That won't happen. There's no end to accumulating experiences and achieving this or that. You cannot find yourself there. You can only find yourself in the present moment. For everything else you need time. To achieve success in your career, to learn to play the piano, to learn a foreign language, even if you want to meet a woman, it takes time. You have to walk somewhere where the beautiful women hang out, and then it takes time. Everything takes time. And so the mind thinks, okay, finding myself, who I truly am, will also take time. It thinks, when I've added enough to who I think I am, maybe recognition from other people, fame, possessions, put all these things in my bag, and when I have enough things accumulated, then I will be full, and that moment will come at some point in the future. It doesn't. Because the bag, no matter how much you put in, it'll never feel full, besides from the fact that also often things fall out of the bag. You put something in here and then something else falls out. You suddenly get wealth and then you're unhappy in your marriage. Or you're happy in your marriage and suddenly the job doesn't work anymore. Or there's nothing, stability isn't to be found in the external world. It's in constant flux. This universe is not stable. People have this absurd illusion that they're living in a stable universe and that they can achieve some kind of stability in their lives. They are shocked when suddenly big disasters happen and you realize how unstable really everything is. So if you looked, and that doesn't mean it's to be rejected, play in the world and enjoy the play as much as you can, but don't expect anything out there to truly make you happy or fulfill you. Happiness is to be found directly within yourself. It comes from being connected with who you are, brings us back to where we started, to be in touch, to feel the deeper I. And there's enormous joy in simply feeling the beingness that you are, to feel the I am that is deeper than this or that. I am the very life that you are, to feel that, to feel alive. Out of that comes true happiness. And then you can play around in the world and you acquire things and then you lose things and you acquire some more and then you lose some more and then in the end you lose everything. That's everybody. But the true love comes out when you're connected with the deeper I, the I that has no form, the one thing that never leaves you, the one ingredient that's always there no matter where you are, what you do, what you experience, that never changes, the I, the consciousness that you are. And when you live in connectedness with that, aligned with that, that's where true love comes. Because when you meet another human being, you can sense in them also there's the depth of the same I that is your identity. You recognize yourself in the other, and the other as yourself. And you feel a deep connectedness, much deeper than anything that you can say or think with the other human being. And that's true love. Love is to feel that you're ultimately not separate, you're one. That can only come out of the spaciousness that is part of the now. The now is space. What happens in the now is form. And ultimately, now is who you are. The space of now is the space of I. And then things happen in it and they change continuously. So there are two ways of saying, when I ask you, what is it that never changes? What is it that's always there in your life, no matter where you go and what you do? You can say, it's always I, the deepest I, not the superficial I that changes, the thoughts, the emotions, who you are in the world. But the deeper I, that's always the same. And so another way of looking at it is to say, it's always now. The now never changes. And then you find the miraculous thing, they're actually one. The space of now and who you are in the depths of your being is consciousness itself, before it becomes something. The very foundation out of which all life comes. You could say God. God dwells in the depth of your being, not as some entity, but as the formless one life itself. That is the deepest meaning of what now is, and that's why the now can never leave you. So I am the now, in essence. I am not what happens, I am the space in which everything happens. That's your true identity. And when you live one with that, knowing that, your life will be fruitful and a great and wonderful adventure. When you don't know who you are, then no matter what you do, what you achieve, where you go, who you meet, it won't satisfy you. That's how simple it is.